What's up, everybody? Brett and Steven here. We are going to give you a breakdown and pick who we think is going to win between Nate Diaz and Dustin Poirier. So there's been a lot going back and forth on this fight. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? We think that that's all kind of been, Twitter for show. So all signs are pointing to this fight is going to be on, as far as we know. You have Dustin Poirier coming off 3 huge wins. I mean, he's beat Eddie Alvarez, he beat Justin Gaethje, and he beat Anthony Pettis.
Who've all been champions,
all
in
are champions.
Organizations.
Well, 2 in the UFC, and then Justin Gaethje in the World Series of Fighting, which is, there's been a lot of good fighters come out of there. Then you have Nate Diaz, who's been on a break for 2 years. I believe the last time he fought was in August of 16 against McGregor, McGregor number 2. Which I think he won.
I also think he won.
I think he won.
Even Demetrius Johnson, they had a little breakdown of him, and he gave it to Nate too. But if it went to decision, I feel like everybody knew McGregor was the cash cow, and he was going to get that one. Yeah, in decision.
100%.
So we'll just scratch that one.
So we're here to tell you what we think is going to happen. I personally think this is a great fight. It's a great fight not only for the UFC because they're 2 big names, but it's also a great fight for the fans because these dudes are going to bring it.
And I've always loved Dustin the Diamond Poirier. He's always been a fun fighter to watch. They had a documentary, I think it was called Fightland, back when Dustin Poirier wasn't even in the UFC. And it's pretty much him coming up as a fighter, and I liked him ever since then. And I thought he would whip Conor McGregor. He got beat in that, but he's just always been a consistent fighter and growing and just making leaps and bounds in his progression. And now he's to a point where I think he's finding his stride.
Yeah,
and he's.
I agree. I agree completely. I mean, the guy over the past 4 fights, because Eddie Alvarez twice. He's fought very tough opponents. I mean, this dude isn't getting gimme guys.
And the reason I love the Diaz brothers in general, like Nate, people always argue, look at his record. He has, he's, I don't know, 20-10 or...
He's 19-11 or something around there.
He loses, but the Diaz brothers, it don't matter. These guys always come to fight. That's what's fun about it. They don't try to point fight. They come in there to fight. They come forward, they take punches, they give punches, they come to fight. And that's why the fans love the Diaz brothers so much, because they talk shit, they're fun, and they come to fight.
And out of I believe it's 11 fights. Out of the 11 fights Nate Diaz has lost, I think 10 of them are a decision. I believe the only person to ever TKO him is Josh Thompson with a head kick. So people know, like you just said, it's a fight. Nate Diaz loses in decisions. And not only does he lose in a decision, when does Nate Diaz fight a chump? Exactly. When is Nate Diaz fighting a no-namer? When is Nate Diaz fighting a guy where people are like, oh, that's an easy win? He fights top-level guys all the time. All the time. So I think, in my opinion, this is a tough fight for Dustin Poirier, only because Dustin Poirier likes to stand and box. Even though he does have some underrated wrestling, he doesn't really use it a lot. He didn't use it against Gaethje, and he didn't use it against Alvarez in either fight. He just stood and banged. And Nate Diaz is way bigger than Dustin Poirier.
Dude, this is an exciting fight for me because both of these guys have legit stand-up. Both of these picked apart Michael Johnson, I believe it was. So it's interesting seeing these styles match up because Nate Diaz is more like a pure boxer. Actually, Dustin Poirier is kind of now a pure boxer, so it's going to be interesting to see how these guys match up on these fights. I don't know if it'll go to the ground at all. I think it's mostly going to be stand-up, and a lot of fans, the casual fans, love these fights when these guys come in and stand up and chunk it out. So I'm excited. And I do think this is a bad matchup for Dustin Poirier just because name me one person besides Josh Thompson who stood up with Nate Diaz and got the better of him. You know what I mean?
I agree. And not only is it a bad matchup because Nate Diaz is a boxer, and when does Nate Diaz try to take someone down? Never, because Nate Diaz is so confident on his feet, but Nate Diaz is also bigger, and he's also longer. The only downfall for Nate is he's had a 2-year layoff, but it doesn't ever seem to phase Nate. Nate's got great training partners, and anytime there's a big fight, Nate Diaz shows up. Michael Johnson, who a lot of people said was one of the best boxers, Nate Diaz, put on a show. Conor McGregor twice, Nate Diaz put on a show. I mean, Nate Diaz, when he's standing on his feet and it's just a boxing match in the octagon, Nate Diaz comes out victorious.
So what do you think? Is the winner of this fight gonna fight for the belt?
It has to be.
Is this the title?
I think
contention fight?
Dana White is hoping and praying for that. Dana White is hoping that Conor McGregor beats Khabib and that Nate Diaz beats Dustin Poirier, and we have a trilogy for the belt because number one, that's what the fans want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, it's for a belt. It would be for a belt, so it would have.
Let me say
even
something
more.
real quick. Nothing makes me more mad than Conor McGregor saying, "I will give Nate Diaz that third fight," and then after the fight, he says, "I battered him. I bloodied his face. He's never gonna be the same guy." You know?
Yeah.
It's like, you are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
Nate Diaz gets bloodied no matter who he fights. Nate Diaz has scar tissue in his face, and it takes a poke, and he's split open, and he bleeds everywhere.
Both of the Diaz brothers, yeah.
Exactly. So, anyways, let's give our fight picks. I'm going Nate Diaz with a decision, but an overwhelming volume decision. I think Nate's going to piece him up. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight for 3 rounds, if not 5, depending on it. It'll be a main event.
They said it's going to be a co-main, so
Okay,
that's
so
kind
it'll
of
be 3
disappointing
rounds.
to me. Yeah,
I think Nate is going
I'm
to
hoping
piece
it
him
could
up
have
for
been a
3 rounds.
5-round fight because it's really hard to beat the Diaz brothers in a 5-round fight because their cardio they outpace everyone. You know what I mean? A 3-round fight, it's easier to like blow your load and just give your all in those 3 rounds. And
so I'm going Nate with an overwhelming decision.
Yeah.
Unanimous decision.
I want to say TKO. I'm gonna go 3rd round TKO. Nate Diaz with the win.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, you heard it.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you guys want to see that 3rd trilogy fight, or has it been too long? Are you over it? And what do you want to see with Dustin Poirier? Do you want to see him beat Nate and fight Khabib or Conor McGregor for the 2nd time at a higher weight class? Let us know what you guys think. Anyways, guys, peace.